Okay. So, excuse me for my voice today. I have been affected by cold, so my voice is changed. But I so wanted to do this podcast, so I don't want an excuse for you to stop this, right? So,
Fine.
yeah, very good morning to you. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
Great, great, great. So we have been planning since long to do this podcast, and
Mm.
um, we are not sure on what topics we are talking. It's like just we want to talk, and it's always fun, and it's always like um, very good to know your experiences of your life and your
Mm.
processes and everything. So I guess let's start with like what is a life to you, and how do you enjoy your life?
Enjoy my life. Okay. So is this in terms of experience and what I do to enjoy my life in day to day?
Yes.
I think um first I had a very big image of what this life should be. I think when you're growing up, you see in media that oh, you want lavish things, you want luxurious things, you want the best of everything. But when you start growing up and when you have experiences like, let's say, for example, COVID, that changes your trajectory of how you view your life. It changes a lot of perspectives in your mindset. And you start to then value what you then have in front of you. It also depends on what kind of experiences you have lived in your life. So when I was super young, I think I wanted big, big things. I wanted to have a big house, or I wanted to live in a massive house, or have the best car, um, best clothes, look the best. But then when I moved to New Zealand, we started our life from pretty much zero. We started our life from ground scratch. And when you see your parents work every single day very, very hard to build the life, to build that foundation for you, something changes within you. You no longer think about, oh, I want the big of everything. You then think about, how do I survive? What's more important? And you appreciate all that you have. And I think for myself, I saw that from when I was 7 years old. Obviously, it wasn't fitted and embedded in my head at that time, but I did see it. And I think I've always valued the idea of hard work. But then when COVID happened, things changed a lot for me. And I remember celebrating one of my birthdays when I had COVID myself. So I had COVID during one of my birthdays. And I still remember I was like in the same room. My mom made my favorite food, idli sambar. She delivered it outside this room, and I had it by myself in this room. I'll never forget that day. And I couldn't even taste it properly because that's how sick I was. To me, I know to others that would sound like a very small experience, but to me, that was everything. Because at the end of the day, sure, I had COVID, I was sick, but I had people I was surrounded with, that loved me, cherished me, still cooked my favorite food, gave me food every single day, irrespective of how sick I was. And I was still I was still safe. I was still secured. And after COVID, I think I started um just enjoying like little things in life more, like let's say walking in nature, or I started journaling quite a lot more, where I was expressing my thoughts, because when you're in a locked room for such a long time, you get clogged up in your mind quite a bit. Um, and for me, it didn't matter about having the best branded clothes anymore. It was more about having things that were comfortable, having things that were affordable, and just being a lot more present and enjoying just little things in life, like let's say going, like for me it was like going on ice cream dates with my dad. Like me and my dad love like sweet food, so we would cherish the moment of like going every weekend, of like going outside and eating food. Or once I got my driver's license, I was able to get food for my family or take them out, you know. It was those things that really started to matter quite a lot. Or having the ability to finally go to India after such a long time. Um, that was a very, I think that was such a really good moment as well. I still remember getting those tickets, seeing mom really happy that, you know, we were able to make it all happen. I got on board because obviously she didn't feel comfortable traveling to another country, and it felt really nice being able to take charge. So it's moments like this where, you know, you can step in and add value to your family, add value to your closed ones. Even with my friends, it's the ability to, I guess, just be there for them and add value to them. I think that's what makes me happy. But for myself, it's always the little things. It's either like, let's say, having good food with your family, sharing an exciting moment with your loved ones, traveling, or when I'm creating content, which I started recently, receiving like certain messages like, oh wow, I saw your video the other day, and I really look forward to these videos because it makes my day, it adds value to my life. So, you know, like these things, I feel like they go a long way. It's not, no one's gonna remember at the end of the day if you wore that Louis Vuitton if you had that Louis Vuitton bag, or no one's gonna remember big house that you had. No one's gonna remember any of that. I think people are gonna remember how you made them feel, and they're gonna remember the moments you shared with them. I think that's something that's ever growing and everlasting. Yeah. So I think it's just about living your life to its maximum rather than always seeing what's in tomorrow. And I'm working on this. This is a very big struggle for me because I used to be this person who was like, I want to do this tomorrow, or I want to be that tomorrow. I was really big on, by 25, I need to make sure I have this massive corporate job where I have this title, that title. But after working in corporate myself, I'm like, that's not really life. Like, it's not about just chasing, but it's also about just living, being, surviving, existing, being present. Yeah, things like that. Very long-winded answer, but yeah, things like that.
So basically, you are being aware of each movement now, right? You are expressing, or
Yeah,
you are experiencing the awareness.
correct,
Yeah. Is
correct.
that a spiritual awareness you see in yourself? And like post-COVID, you have been aware and you have been witnessing all the movement and, you know, enjoying and expressing all the movement. Then how does that, changes from before and after the COVID? Like now you said that it's been like you more value the movement and you enjoy the
Yeah.
movement. Then
Right.
from the inner self, what exactly has been changed? Have you noticed that something in yourself that it has something been changed, or it is just the outer world has been changed?
I think it's both, because when you I think especially in COVID, right, you're forced to spend time with yourself. And I was an extremely extroverted person before COVID. Like, I'm still fairly quite extroverted, I would say, but I also have a part of me that craves solitude now. Um, and during COVID, I spent a lot of, I mean, you kind of had to spend a lot of time by yourself, a lot of time with yourself. And I think when you spend that time with yourself, it's up to you how you want to, and it's up to you how, what you do with those thought process, and what you do with the awareness you're gaining. And I had a lot of time to gain that awareness. And I realized a big shift after COVID, that it was a necessity for me to spend that time with myself. Like something, okay, this is a very recent change that I implemented in my life, but holy hell, it does wonders. So at night, if because I struggle to get away from my phone, right? So what I do is I turn off the Wi-Fi on my phone, I turn off the data, and I put my phone away. I just put it away. And that helps me just stay away from all of the media that I put myself in front of every single day, and just visualize, or just close my eyes and visualize, okay, how do I want to live this life, or just be and gain that peace for myself. And I think that's very necessary now. And once I started spending a lot more time with myself, I started feeling less guilty. I didn't, because I think before, when I wasn't spending that time with myself, I was always crowded by other people's opinions constantly. And I was also crowded by what I saw on media, because I was 24/7 on my phone. But when I started spending more time with myself, I started to think more inwards, like what actually matters, or things like, how do I really want to live? How do I perceive myself? Is it really about others, or is it really about me? How do I want to go and move forward? I think when you spend that time with yourself, and when you ask these questions to yourself on a regular basis, things change, things start to shift. But you also have to be open to change, right? You have to be open to awareness. You have to be open to seeking awareness. It's kind of like saying, I want help, but I don't need to be helped. Like if you're going to have a locked mindset, if you're going to have a scarcity mindset, where we're not open-minded, then you're not going to invite that change. And I think something which is very big for me, and the idea of spiritual world in general, and I feel like this came to me from a very young age, which not a lot of people know about, to be fair. I'm very, very connected to God. Very, like, it's quite weird to say this, but when I first came to New Zealand, my parents put me in a religious school. So the name of the school is actually called Hare Krishna School. So we have this school, and we had like the whole system of like the buses used to come pick you up. So it was just easier, because they used to go to work and the bus used to come pick me up, drop me back home. It was quite easy. They used to have like warm Indian food, and it helped me to stay very connected to my culture. But because it was a religious school, it meant that we learned a lot about religion in general. There were a lot of practices there used to be daily prayers every single morning in the school. It was an ISKCON platform there. So from that, like from when I was 7 years old, I was surrounded by that, and I spent about 5 years there. 5 years. And I think those 5 years of it were a very crucial time in my life. Even though I was very young, I was like, what, 7 years to 13 years, 14 years. And my belief in that God just kept increasing. Like it was just like, it was at its peak. And it increased to a point where, let's say, for example, I start to feel alone in life, or I start to have a question in life, or if I start to feel very overwhelmed. And for a personality like me, I actually struggle to ask for help. I don't open up. So I talk to God. And I've done it from a very young age. I just talk. Like I just constantly talk. Like I have this next to my bed. I'll show you that I still have from that. I literally have this from temple. It was gifted to me when I left that school. And it still stays quite next to me. I hug it when I can't sleep. I talk to it when I'm very overwhelmed. I speak to them like, okay, why is this happening? Why is this happening in my life? And when I talk to it, I feel there's a sense of peace. But coming back to the topic of you have to be open to change, what I did in that sense was, I think I started also speaking with you, where you showed me the whole idea of gratitude.
Oh.
Yeah, so when I started speaking, like this was like a very long time ago. I would say it was back when I was still, I think, entering college or just before high school. It was during the time when I started speaking with yourself, and you gave me this whole knowledge about, okay, start being, grateful for all that you have. Start doing like a gratitude list. That was a turning point. believe it or not. I think that was also a very good turning point, because there's this idea that when you also start being more grateful, you receive greater energy into your life, and you see it, and it comes into different areas of your life. So comes back to the same point. You have to be open to change, to seek change. You have to be open to that inner awareness, to gain that awareness. But the more you're open to learning new ideas, the more you're open to asking for help, talking to God, speaking what's really in here, then you're going to be open to finding more clarity. And I think speaking to God was always there for me from a very young age. That was something that was always there. I used to go on walks, and I used to subconsciously always speak to my God. And then there were ways that my doors started opening through that, somehow, somewhere. So I think, yeah, that was that. That's how it all started.
Great. So when you say that you started speaking subconsciously, what is subconscious to you then?
I think that's a very big question. And subconscious, that's a huge word. It's not in forefront to you, but because you've been surrounded by certain idea or certain energy, it always stays in the back of your mind. It's something that never leaves. For example, this is a very off-topic example, but I think I learned this about self-love instead. You have to almost train your subconscious mind to believe what is reality. Correct. Now, my whole life, I've told myself that I'm really fat, for example. Correct. I've been really insecure. This is a fact. I've been really fat. And that's the imprint I've given my subconscious. I've given the back of my mind. This is the reality I've taught that mind. And it's believed it. But when I started exercising, when I started taking the steps to change my reality, I also started training my mind that the number on the scale doesn't mean everything. And that training takes time. That training takes a lot of time. So when you change that reality in your subconscious, then your outer front reality also changes. And then how you perceive yourself also changes. So I feel like for me, everything starts from that subconscious itself. The more you change how you perceive yourself in subconscious, the more your reality changes in front of you, and how you perceive yourself, how you perceive your life changes in front of you, which comes back to my point I made earlier. Be open. Be open to change, be open to seeking, be open to learning, be open to even objecting opinions that are not same as you, because even sometimes learning about negative opinion can help you understand more. So I feel like the more you're open, the more you can train that side of your mind as well. But see what works for you, see what doesn't, just cut it out. So I feel like the training begins there. You know, when you're going for a marathon, you train, and then no one sees the end results. Yeah, the training comes there first. The end result is what you see on the surface. I don't think anyone sees the training. Yeah.
Right. So you've been like, since you mentioned that you are a student of ISKCON international schools, right? So
Mm.
what kind of spirituality or what kind of feelings, spiritual feelings you have experienced in that environment? How is it, and like when you say that you are speaking to the God, what exactly you are, having the feeling, and how do you know that he's listening?
Peace. Literally one word, peace. Um, something inside you just calms. There is no, I wouldn't say there's a right or wrong way to express. There is no right or wrong actually in this whole idea. It just calms you down. Like for me, Actually, I have another really good example. So, my dadi. So my dadi, she came to New Zealand, I think 2020. This was actually between COVID. So she came to New Zealand between COVID, and her health wasn't the best. So then I took some break from. This was also another turning point in my life. So she came to New Zealand. Her health wasn't the best, and then I took break from university to take care of her because my parents had to work. So it was a very new chapter for me because I've never taken care of an elderly person in my life before. So that was a very new experience, right? I don't know what the hell I was doing. I was just being myself. And in the middle of that, um, I used to find myself sometimes very overwhelmed. I'm like, okay, I'm not getting to see my friends. I'm not really doing anything in life. And in moments like that, I would just turn to God and be like, please, like, I would say either help me or just be there with me as my strength to make sure, one, I learned something out of this. Two, um, give me the strength to pull through, because I know you're making me go through all of this experience for a reason. Sometimes there is no reason, or sometimes it's just a chapter that you need to get through to value life more. For me, it was just learning that life can stop at any time because her health wasn't the best. And that's when I realized, I'm like, whoa, what does really matter? And it made me a lot more of a stronger human being. And it made me stand up for my parents in that moment as well, because things were changing. And I remember when she left, and it was still COVID, because it was like, I remember dropping her off to the airport and there was hardly anyone there. And I was kind of terrified because, when you send an Indian elderly person back to India who's never traveled before, a part of you is like constantly like, oh, I hope they get home safe. I hope they get back to India safely. And my parents, I think they were somewhat okay, but I was all over the place because I was so worried. And I remember like that day, I think I saw a big sign that my God was with me, because we went to the airport. No one was allowed inside the airport to actually do the paperwork. And obviously, if you know anyone who's like elderly Indian person, they won't have that knowledge to do the paperwork and stuff, right? So I took it upon myself to do it. I spoke to the person. I was thinking subconsciously, I'm like, Bhagwan, just be with me. This is for a good intention. Mane karwa deo, because this is for a good intention. हमने जो help मली जैसे, then I know my मगज में peace smile से मने कि they went back home safely. No one was allowed. And I spoke to this person and he's like, yeah, go. He let me go in. And I think it was such a big sign, because not only was I able to, in that moment, help her out, but there was another family, same situation. Emna bhi koi a mummy I was. So it was same as like Dadi's age, but younger, little bit younger. And she was in the same situation. They did not speak English, did not know what they're doing. And those Emna chokra chokri were like completely terrified कि हमने अंदर के भी इतना मौका लिया. And then I told them कि हमने मरी हाथे ले लो, like bring her on with me. So I took my dadi, I had my dadi on one hand, I had this other auntie who was the same age as my dadi with us, and I took two wheelchairs with me inside. And I'm like, this is my day. And it was such an awesome feeling, because I was like, I knew that my God was with me, and I felt like I was meant to do this. I was like, this was my day. I was like, I was meant to go in. I was meant to help my dadi out, this lady out. And I was meant to go through this period. And I remember when I helped them out, I seeked their blessings. And when I walked out, I had another auntie who was having the same issue, and I helped her out as well. But when I sorted that whole thing out, I seeked blessings. I still remember one of the last things my daddy said to me before she left my house. She's like, when you were born, people were like, oh, a girl is born, a girl is born. Because the whole idea that, oh, girl and boy, that boy can do more. She had a very strong innate belief that one day this girl is going to do something for me that no one else can do. And I never understood that. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And I think that day, that belief had that very strong reinforcement that, yeah, you know what? Yes, I'm a girl, but I was able to do this for you. But in the back of my mind, my God was with me the whole time to give me the strength to pull through, to ask, to take initiative, to take charge. And even after she left, I went to the temple because I went to the temple, and I also gave her this photo I had of like Radha Giridhari. So that's the temple we have here, Radha Giridhari. I was like, keep this with you. Just keep it with you. Don't ask me anything. Just keep it with you. I hope it keeps you safe throughout your entire trip. I hope it doesn't give you any trouble at all. I went back to the mandir, and this is a very beautiful experience I had. I went back to the mandir the second day. Because I was like, oh, my dadi's still traveling, you know, I'm still very anxious. Even though I dropped her off, everything went well. I was so anxious. I was like, oh God, I really hope she gets safe. Because you can't even get in connect, you know, you can't get in connect. Once they're in the plane, they're gone. You know, you can't be like, oh, hello, kaach ho, where are you? And stuff like that. You can't do anything like that. So I was like, you know, let me do what I always do. Yeah, I spoke to my friends, but there is a different level of peace you get when you go to that temple. And I went to that temple and I just sat, you know, I just sat and there was no one there. And it was, that's why I say that one word, peace. That temple brings me a lot of peace. When I'm really happy, I go there. When I'm really sad, I go there. It brings me a lot of peace. And when I see Krishna in front of me, I feel like my best friend is right there. I feel like he's there. And I've always considered him my best friend, like my best friend, my warrior, my fighter, my protector. He's very close to my heart, very close to my heart from day one. So whenever I see him, I just feel like, you know, things are going to be okay. And I think things are going to be okay when you have a good intention. These two go very hand in hand, actually. When you're being religious or spiritual, have a good intent. Do things with good intent. Tamara jare sara intentions hoy, Bhagwan will automatically see that, and he'll knows ki amana saru kari ryu chhe, ana sara intentions chhe. Let me be there for them, because anu ill intention nathi. They're not thinking about themselves while doing this. They, you know, they're thinking to add value. And when you do things with that kind of thought process, I believe that you earn that goodwill, you earn that good life points or good karma points in my language. Um, and yeah, I went to that temple and I felt really peaceful. And you know what's funny? That day, I think I was also supposed to go to temple because one of my very like my childhood friends who I studied with in the same school, she came to temple that day out of all the days. And I met her after like how many years? And you know what the interesting part was? She's like, I'm also going to India. And I was like, okay, fantastic. I'm like, do you know what's everything that's required to go to India? Because obviously it's COVID, so you have so many requirements to go. And I already did everything because obviously I did it for Dadi. And she's like, no, I don't know. Like, I know there's some. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Give me your number. I'll send you all the information I have. I'll tell you everything that I have that I've done for my grandma recently. And I gave her all that information. And the beauty of this experience was me just going to that temple. It helped her out. But I felt like I also went there as a messenger to help her out. I feel like I was meant to go there. I was meant to be there. I got my peace, but I was also meant to be there for this other human being to help them out. And then she messaged me. She's like, I actually got to India quite safely. And everything happened very peacefully. Even my dadi, when she reached, she was very content. She reached peacefully. So it's good intentions, having good thought process, and also belief. I think belief is big. When you believe in someone, when you believe and surrender yourself to someone like God. For example, for me, that's Krishna. That surrendering has come to me in blessings in numerous ways. Right? So that's why, for me, turning to him brings me peace. I think a lot of people in this world, they ask themselves, oh, mara sathe kema uthai che. but it takes one to actually look at the situation and be like, થાય છે, okay, તારા સાથે થાય છે, પણ look at it, તને શું શીખવાડવા માંગે છે, right? Like, for example, this is a very recent example. It actually only happened 2 weeks ago. And earlier in the conversation, I mentioned that I struggle to ask for help, right? My car stopped working. Okay. It's actually still under repairs. And my personality, it's nothing to do with ego. I don't have ego when it comes to asking for help. I've just grown up to be this person who has just figured it out, done it by myself, just, thought of the solution myself. I don't actively reach out to ask for favors. And I wrote it in my 2024 goals in life and spirituality that, Krishna, help me ask for help whenever need be. Let me ask for help, because when you ask for help, again, you're open to change. You're open to another perspective. And I think he literally thought of that. I was like, 2024 નો કેમ રાહ જોવાનો, આપણે અત્યારથી ચાલુ કરી નાખીએ. તો પછી my car broke down, so it's my car still in repair. 3 week થઈ ગયા, 3 weeks. And when your car is in repair, that's like, and if you want to get to like, okay, you have to be open to asking for help. You have to be open to be asking your friends, okay, if you want to meet your friends, because I usually be the person like, okay, let's go out. I'll come to pick you up. I'll do, if I go to go play sports, because I play sports as well. I play squash and badminton at times. I'll be like, let's do this. And then it'll be me that'll just go and pick them up. And this time I'm like, I can't do that anymore. I'm in a position where I can't do that now. And I'm like, okay, how do we make this work? And for someone, it should come very naturally to you now, that go and just be like, okay, can you drive today? No, it wasn't naturally to me. I was put in a situation where I was like, okay, no, go out of your way to ask for help. Come on, you do it. You go this time. And then I started inviting more people to my house instead. Like, okay, you come over. And then I saw this different lamplight of my own friends, people close to me. They're like, no, chal, we'll take you in our car. We'll go this. You always do this. We'll go play sports. So let's go eat some dessert outside. Don't worry about the car and stuff. Just come. It was things like that. And every time I try to say, I'm like, look, I can't drive. They're like, oh, don't worry. We'll do this, or we'll figure this out. It doesn't matter. Just come this. And I'm like, oh, it's actually not that hard. In my head, I'm like, oh, it's actually really not that hard. Not that hard. And in many instances in those 3 weeks, Krishna had really put me into situations where he's like, if you're feeling a certain way, say it. Like right now, I know you're feeling very frustrated that you don't have your car. Okay, say it. Tell someone close to you how you're really feeling. Why do you have to always clog up inside? So it's also like what you ask for, you receive in other ways. I asked for this to happen in 2024. It happened in 2023. But yeah. Just give me 1 second. Yeah.
So you have
So it's
mentioned, you mentioned here that something about karma account or something like that, right? So what is a
karma points.
karma points? Yeah. So what is karma points to you? I mean, how do you define the karma points? I mean, is there any mathematics where we have to calculate this in this way? We can actually
I
make.
had a feeling you were gonna ask me this. I had a very strong intuition you were gonna ask me. I had a feeling this was going to be a follow-up question.
Yeah.
No, there is no set number. There is no set number. I've just given myself that methodology. It's points. Like, when you go to school, kya points on karma pade, good points, bad points, and stuff like that. I've just told myself that I want good karma points. It's just a language I've used for myself. No, there is no methodology. There is no procedure. There is no manual booklet for this. There is no set number that you need to earn to be a winner in front of God. There's nothing like that. I think it comes down to the point I made earlier. Whatever you do in life, whether it's in career, whether it's trying to build a new relationship, in friendship, you're leaving, if you're letting go, if you're building something, whether it's a business, a hobby, anything, do it with good intent. I feel like it comes down to intentions. For me personally, it really does. If you do things with good intent, you will make mistakes, right? There's another spectrum to this, that yeah, sure, you'll make mistakes sometimes, and tame gussa ma kahin ke boli kar, so like I know I have a tendency to make mistakes like that, but even then from that you will learn, because you're letting out of that good intent of how you're feeling. But it comes down to that intent. Like, are you saying this, are you doing this to harm anybody, are you doing this to create more destruction? Like, sure, yeah, you are only going to be that one, you're not going to live for that long, you're not going to be in this world or this universe for that long, so nothing should really matter. And I'm not saying that, oh, if you're here, build a massive legacy, become a millionaire, so people are going to remember you. No one's going to remember you in 10-20,000 years. But you want to make sure you lived a life with good experiences, good people around you, good surroundings, good environment. And for that to grow, that when you continuously do things with good intentions, Krishna, or in other words, universe, will grant you more in ways you never saw it coming. I think I have another example for this. I think this is very interesting to me. So I was looking for like furniture in my house. Very simple example, right? And this is a very simple example. But basically, I was looking for furniture for this room because I'm trying to create my own podcast one day. And everywhere I looked, it was very expensive, like very expensive. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to be buying this because this is way too expensive. And then suddenly one day, I came across, because I don't know if you know what is Facebook Marketplace. So we have Facebook Marketplace in New Zealand as well. And I came across this person who was selling like 2 chairs, 1 small table for, I think, $80 to $90 or something like that. That's a score. That's a wild score, because a chair itself in New Zealand is 140. And these chairs and table that he had were only 4 months old. And he was only selling them because he was moving out. He was moving to UK. He was going to London to live forever. And I kept going to rejection. I was like, I was looking for all these chairs. I just couldn't find something. But every single day, I also turned to God, and I had gratitude in place. I also had things, I was constantly reminding myself what I'm grateful for. And I also asked myself, like, why do I need this? What's the intention behind this? And to me, I feel like he returned the favor by Ale. Tara price which मैं तने आपू તને તને જે જોઈતું છે એના કરતા બી 10 times વધારે તને સારું આપું. અને એવું થયું, લિટરલી એવું થયું. It was in the most unexpected way એવું થયું. Like 4 મહિના જૂની chair, which is nothing in my opinion. 4 મહિના તો કઈ નહીં કહેવાય. Well conditioned. $90 માં એકની જગ્યા 2 મળી. ટેબલની જોડે અને સારા કન્ડિશનમાં મળી. પણ એ બધું થવા પહેલા it was more like એક intention હતો કે હા, અહીંયાથી હું ચાલુ કરા. આ મારે પોડકાસ્ટ બનાવી છે. કેમ બનાવી છે? શેના માટે બનાવી છે? સારા intention માટે બનાવી છે, to bring out greatness in the world, to bring out more beautiful messages in the world. Yeah. And તમે જ્યારે તમારા હરેક એક્શન પ્રત્યે એક સારો intention રાખો, universe sees that. They do. And when you do that, and you have the gratitude practice in place, when you start becoming more and more grateful, you're going to receive such amazing energies in return in the most unexpected ways. There is also the saying, right, with karma. I have this thing, I wrote this quote on my vision board which says, Karam kiye jaye, fal ki chinta mat kar. It literally says it here. But basically what that means is, you do your karam, but don't worry about the fal. ફલ એના વેમાં આવશે. બસ તું તારું કર્યા કર, તું તારા કર્મ કર્યા કર. Keep doing the good with the good intent. Phal nahi mere house. And that phal doesn't need to be in good furniture in my instance. It doesn't need to be in that. It can be, that phal can be, let's say, an interaction, a learning, a experience. And it can be in many, many ways. So yeah, that's the key message here. Good intent. ખરાબ કરશો તમે જેટલું ખરાબ, like ખરાબ in a way, like when you are doing things to hurt someone, when you're doing things with bad ill intention, હા તમને initially તમને joy મળશે કે ha ha ha, I'm bringing the downfall of this person, wow 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 wow. You really think that's gonna stay there for long? Because yeah, sure, you're having this short-term gratification and you're enjoying this moment of yours, but I bet you in 2 years or in some time, that's gonna be your biggest downfall. You won't see it, and maybe no one will see it except for you, but it will come to you in a way where whether you will face it after your life or you might face it during your life, but it will come in some way from another. It will. Yeah, I would say that's my answer to that.
Perfect. Have you also read some books on Krishna?
You're gonna be very surprised, and also there could be no, I haven't actually. I haven't. I um haven't read, like, I think the prime book is Bhagavad Gita, right? I have books of Bhagavad Gita in my house. No, I have not read them, but I've always, like I said, I think those 5 to 6 years I spent in that school were a very good foundation for me to learn what Krishna is, to learn what he has done for the community, for his people. And I think for me, I'm a visual learner, so yeah, I read, but I also need to, I think, somehow see it in media, or some like messages come to me in a more simpler form. I learn things quite simply, like if I have simple messages, it's just quite easy for me to take in. So I watched, I think this was during COVID. I'm not sure if you're aware, there is a show which is very famous, very famous. It's called Radha Krishna. It's a very famous show, and I used to sit down and watch that show a lot with, and my parents were obsessed with that show. They used to watch that show every single day. And it was perfect because through that show as well, I learned a lot about him. I learned a lot about his intentions. I learned about how he was like, what he did. But no, I did not read books about him.
Yeah.
But I think I had the core things in mind to being connected with him, like the mantra, right? I think that's a very simple mantra that I always remember, like Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So that mantra, sometimes if I can't go to sleep, I'll hug that photo that you saw, and I just keep saying that, and that would put me to peace. It would change my subconscious and would really, really help me to put me to peace and let me sleep properly. Though it also comes down to if you believe, right? I think if you believe and you surrender yourself, then you can feel that. Yeah.
Do you still visit to that temple? How often you visit?
Yep. Not as often as I was able to, but I have this one day that I hardly ever miss. It's Janmashtami. I never ever miss that day. Like there's a very low chance I'll ever miss that. The only time I missed Janmashtami was when there was COVID. That's it. That's literally the only years I missed it. Because obviously no one could go. But other than that, every year I go. Or sometimes once I even like find time, like frequently, like once in 3 months, once in 4 months, I just go. Yeah. But Janmashtami, never miss Janmashtami.
Right. So, do you also perform any rituals after going to the temple, or you just visit and you sit there and you come back?
When you say rituals,
do you chant anything over there? Do you do make do you do the prayers?
yeah, well, in the temple that we go to, there's a recording that's always playing. So there's a chanting mantra that's always playing in the background. So even if you're, let's say, you're not verbally like constantly chanting, there's always something there. When I go, I usually try to go during aarti times. So that aarti would either happen before lunch or in the evening. So I usually go before lunch, and there's a massive, like, really good aarti that happens there, and quite a few people come. So I would say I would pray during that aarti, or sometimes I actually don't pray at all. I'll be completely honest. I don't. For me, I literally stand there and I just look at Krishna. I literally just have the gaze. And I think sometimes it's not about constantly chanting or praying or performing the rituals. It's just about standing there like this and just being, just really observing, just being in that environment, not being distracted by anything else, but just being so present. And for me, I don't think I really like constantly prayed when I went there. I think the most things I would ever say is thank you. Like I'd speak to him. Like, you know how you speak to your best friend? I'd speak to him in my mind. I'm like, I'd go there and I'd say, thank you. Thank you for being there for me. Thank you for being a very strong light to every part of my darkness that there ever was. You pulled through, you life. So it's more like thank you to me. Like, let's say if I got a new job, or let's say if I was feeling anxious, I would still go there and just say thank you. And just sit, literally just sit and just be present there. Yeah.
Great. So ISKCON or Krishna is your spiritual friend or mentor, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
great. That's great. I mean, and what kind of spiritual experiences do you encounter, like after, going through the temple, or, after, you have realized that, you have this spiritual friend with you, always with you, So what kind of experience do you see in your life? What kind of changes you see in your life that was not before COVID, or, it was not before, or you have this, your mental level has totally been changed now? How is it?
Um, After COVID, my mental capacity has changed quite a bit, I would say. But I think one of the biggest things is I guess for me, like when I started believing in Krishna more, I'm not sure if this is gonna go aligned with each other, but my intuition also started increasing a lot more. So my intuition started becoming very strong force to help me make decisions in life. Intuition, to me, intuition is gut feeling, that gut feeling you get. And you don't always get that gut feeling. When you get that gut feeling. So I think I, even after I started turning to God a lot, I think my intuition also started helping me quite a bit. And with spiritual rituals, right? I think it's also the idea of I need to look a lot within myself to improve myself and see what I'm feeling. How do I really want to progress in life? How do I really want to move forward in life? And the more I started being open to that, the more I started experiencing a lot of different changes. For example, another spiritual ritual I did was, I don't know if this counts, but I think I started journaling was definitely one of them. Gratitude journaling was also another one of them. I started also going on walks in nature quite a bit. Like I was a nature buddy. Like I still love nature quite a lot. I think I feel like another thing was when I started going on social media. I started to, see, I looked at accounts, I looked at social media accounts, and I started to, only follow those accounts that served me for my higher good. And if things that were not serving me well, I would cut it off. So another thing I did was I also started letting go of media information that are not for me, right? Meditation was also another one of them, but I think meditation is still a very beginning learning process for me. Very, very beginning learning process for me. And I started to also, I would say, speak a lot more. Like, I think when you have a lot in here, and when you don't project it outside, or if you don't write it down somewhere, it hurts you, it really clogs up. And I think when I turn to him, or when I turn to Krishna, there used to be certain experiences in my life I used to get. Like, for example, my mom started telling me that tu andar no rakh, tane je bhi chha tu bar bolwa mand, things like that. So I took the courage to really like start talking to her, speaking with her, really, really sharing how I'm feeling, and that started lightening me up. That really started to light me up. Yeah, and with the meditation in general, I feel like that's still a very, like I said, it's a very beginner process for me. I'm not sure if you know, I started this one new type of meditation that my mom taught me. It's called Anulom Vilom. So I do Anulom Vilom for 10 minutes every single day now. And I've started doing this one simple practice that as soon as I get up, my phone is not the first thing I look at. Like on a normal day-to-day basis now, remember, like I said very early in the conversation, I turned that Wi-Fi off. That Wi-Fi on my phone is not the first thing I see, except if I'm obviously turning off the alarm. That's it. But I'm not going to be seeing my phone for that first hour or that half an hour at least. There are going to be some things I'm going to do prior to me looking at that. And those things include get up, brush your teeth, make your bed, do Anulom Vilom for 10 minutes. And Anulom Vilom is very beautiful because it helps you really decompress because you're breathing in and out. It's also good for your health. So if you have sardi, it's also very good for you because you're letting go of all the gunk. It also helps you just close your eyes and just be. And then after that, after I finish my Anulom Vilom, I just sit there for 2-3 minutes and I out loudly speak what I'm grateful for. You can also write it down. I sometimes out loudly speak. I'm like, hey, Krishna, thank you for giving me this, and this today. And it automatically sometimes just puts me in a very good mood. Then I go make myself some breakfast. And instead of looking at my phone and eating breakfast, I did this yesterday. I still didn't have my phone. I ate my breakfast and I felt that when I was doing that and I was not looking at my phone, I felt every single bite. Like I tasted every single bite so well because my mind wasn't somewhere else. Everything, my sense, my touch, my taste was all in that one dish. And even after that, I go spend outside. I put my smartwatch on time and I would walk for just like 5-10 minutes. I would do that prior to breakfast or before breakfast. And after all of that is done, that is when I look at my phone. So that's like good half an hour to 1 hour. So it's also about being open to all these like little things in life, which I believe make you more spiritual because you're just pausing. You're pausing, you're living, you're just being, you're slowing down. And for the longest period of time, before COVID especially, and even after COVID, I was like this. I was very fast-paced. I was like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? And after facing such burnouts, but burnouts is like when you're constantly going at a speed 120, you can't constantly go, otherwise you're gonna face a crash. You're gonna somehow fall down. I faced that crash 3 times, and then I came back to my alter reality, and I finally learned how to slow down. So I think slowing down was also another way I was taught by God or by experience that just slow down. There's nothing bad in slowing down. Because in my headspace, this whole, like my whole childhood, I thought that, okay, boom, 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 do this, then do that. By this age, you have to do this. By this age, you have to do that. You have to conquer all of this right now. That expectation I had on myself. But the moment I faced those burnouts, the moment I slowed down, the moment I started Anulom Vilom, the moment I spent that time with myself in the morning, first thing in the morning, I spend that time with myself before looking at that phone. You learn a lot more about you, and you also um, feel feel peace. You feel a lot more calmer, you know. So it's being open to those spiritual changes, but it's also sometimes you have to go through those experiences that turn your life to going into those changes, which kind of sucks because you somehow always have to rely on those experiences to then be like, oh, I appreciate this a lot more. But I think every being needs to go through that to appreciate it. Like you're not gonna appreciate these mornings when you've always just lived such a fast, if you've always lived a slow paced life. But if you've lived a fast paced life 24/7, and you face such burnouts and then you slow down, you're like, this feels great. Like, wow, this feels amazing. This is actually what life is. Yeah.
So speaking of nature lover or nature buddy, uh, how is the vibe when you walk in the nature, and do you go alone or you like some
Yeah.
company to go with or and also tell us something like about the last trip which you had, because that was also nearly a nature lover trip which I've heard, right? So how was that experience and what did you discover from that? um is it something like you want to do it again? And you know like what exactly you have been like, uh, have you like match yourself in that trip? What exactly was the experience? Because I'm sure that going on a spiritual places for a vacation, it's always discovering something from yourself or discovering yourself,
Mm.
right?
So I think before I went on that break, I was working in my I was working in a 9 to 5. So when you work in a 9 to 5, you're constantly hustling, you're constantly on that very fast-paced life that okay, sorry, you have a very tight schedule. And I knew subconsciously from a very long time I wanted a break. Like I just knew that I need one, and I just want to be in an environment where I don't really have to worry about anything. I have to worry about work, the content that I do on social media, anything is that. So what I did was I went on a cruise trip, which was fantastic. And I took myself away from social media. I wasn't constantly on social media because the internet connection was also not that great, which was fantastic. That worked right in my favor. Um, I didn't have work at that time, which was also great. And in that trip itself, it was very nice because I was able to rest quite a bit, but I was also able to just surround myself around sea. And if you're in cruise and if you're around sea, you realize you're in between nowhere. Like you're literally in between nowhere. And suddenly nothing matters. Like nothing matters. Because you're between nowhere. No one's gonna see you, no one's gonna judge you, no one's gonna um nothing in that moment, just nothing matters. So you can just walk through the cruise, feel the sea breeze, and just be, just really really enjoy, and just enjoy that experience of life. And that for me was great. I remember me and my, because I went with friends, I went with good friends, and another friend of mine, We used to wake up early in the morning and we used to go work out in the gym, because there was a gym in the cruise. And then after that, have good breakfast together. So it was like spending times like that, like having good meals together, eating dinner together, sharing experience together. But also I spent quite a fair amount by myself, where I was just observing the sea, being in nature. And coming back to your other question, like, when you go on walks, are you mostly by yourself? Yeah, I do go on quite a lot of walks by myself. It just helps me decompress. Like, if, let's say, for example, if you're having a very full on day, or if your mind is just full of clutter, something that has always helped me is I take my headphones, I get out of my house for good 20 to 40 minutes. I'll either put some music on, or maybe no music at all, and I'll just walk. I'll just walk and just walk and just be present in that moment and just let everything out from my head. And then sometimes, and I think exercise is also a good remedy. And I think walking is the most lowest impact exercise. When you do that, when you take that sweat off, when you just walk it off, that's why they say walk it off, because you're taking all of this junk off. It really, really helps. And my cruise trip was also a good testament of that. I was being able to, stay away from Auckland. I was staying away from the working life. I was staying away from social media. And it really helped me feel joy. Like, it really helped me feel just these beautiful moments that I was with my friends and I was able to enjoy these experiences. I think that was a big thing for me. Like, even because we went in cruise, we also went to islands. So when we went to different islands, we experienced, we went to zoo, we saw different animals, we saw turtles. And then you just, because you're not constantly around media, you're just constantly around people, you're experiencing new things. And when you're in between exploration is always exciting, right? For me, even going on walks is exciting, because you're experiencing new roads, you're experiencing new parks, you're experiencing these new, maybe you see a sunset, or maybe you see a new animal, maybe you see a new road. It's just exciting. And the word new itself is exciting. It can go two ways. You can either see new in a scary way, that, oh shoot, it's new, I don't know this, it's very scary. Or you see new in a way like, damn, it's exciting, I've never done this before, it's a new experience of life. And I'm so keen to see what I'm gonna get out of all this. And I think that's the headspace I went with when I went inside that cruise, that I'm gonna have all these new changes. We went to the beaches, we went to spa, and in the cruise, which was already provided, had good food, good meals, good dessert. And I also remember we also watched a very beautiful sunset. And that specific day in general, when that sunset was there, I remember walking around the whole cruise by myself. And I walked with my friends first, and then I walked by myself. And I heard a poem that time from Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. If you watch that movie, there's this very really beautiful poem, Ki tum zinda ho tum. If your heart is alive, tum zinda ho. If you have chinta in your life, tum zinda ho. If you have this in your life, tum zinda ho. And in that moment, I really felt I was zinda, I was alive. Because even irrespective of feeling all these emotions, I had like tears flowing out of my life. I'm like, I'm just being right now after such a long time, and nothing matters. I'm just being. It's just the sunset and me. And I felt very zinda in that moment. Because you could literally be dead inside when you're living a normal life, and normal is not normal, sorry. When you're always on like go, 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 go. And when you're never stopping, are you really being? Are you really living? Because you're not processing anything. You're just boom, 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 boom. But when you suddenly stop, pause, Just see what's around you for once. And I happen to be very lucky to live in such a beautiful country. I live in New Zealand, right? So it's just such, nature is just like a gift to us. It's just so beautiful. And when you just see around you, you're like, wow, this is where I live. This is so beautiful. This is the freedom I have. This is the opportunity I have. Like, I get to do this. I get to live in this. I get to go on walks. I have legs to go on walks. I have a phone I can listen to music with. I have access in this world to meet so many new people. I can talk to someone from London through my phone if I want to right now, through an application. I can do this. I can get to do that. And when you start to see life from that angle, you can feel that joy within you. So I think it's very important time to time to go on trips, yes, but obviously because of recession and inflation, we not all of us can afford to go on trips. So in that sense, I would say just pause, take at least just, if you have like, let's say Saturday, Sunday off, right? Whenever we have that weekend off, or at least 2 days off, or if say, let's say even if you have just one day off, take 1 to 2 hours just for yourself, and just look what's around you. Look how far you've come. Look at all the battles you have fought and you've still survived. Um and just be, just be grateful, or if you're, even if you're not feeling happy, just take everything out. Speak out loudly how you're feeling. Because something eventually will shift in within you for even doing that, being open to that and seeing what's around you. Because sometimes when you're going at such a fast pace, even when you're living in the same house, even when you're going on the same road, you're not really, sorry, seeing that. Yeah.
Great. So it was great listening. And with that note, I wish you more trips, with the nature. And I wish that you discover more yourself, more spiritual awareness to you. And we'll definitely meet again. We'll have a definitely second podcast with you, and with the new experiences, with new spiritual awareness, and with more discovery. All right.
Yep.
Till then, bye. Have a
Bye.
nice day.